So far we have been putting all the logic responsible for handling route requests directly within route callbacks. But as our application grows, it is usually more common to extract this logic into so-called controller classes. And now we're going to create our first controller that is going to handle requests to courses routes, to show list of courses, as well to show particular course by ID. So let's create our first controller by executing the following command in the project root php artisan make controller. Here we have to give a name to the file with the controller. I'm gonna follow one of the conventions and call this file course controller, so that this file name contains resource name that this controller is going to handle and controller suffix. This is a pretty common convention of naming controller files. Then we can also specify which kind of controller we'd like to create. In this case, it doesn't matter. Let's choose the first option, empty controller. And here we see the address where the new file with the controller has been created. So let's open up this file in our editor and take a look at its content. For now, this file, as you can see, contains an empty controller class. Now we're going to create methods to handle individual route requests. So according to the convention, the method that is going to handle request to the page which lists items of a particular resource should be called index, and the method that is going to handle the request to show particular resource, for example by ID on a separate page, should be called show. And then I'm going to copy over the logic which handles those requests into corresponding methods. This is the logic responsible for showing the page with courses. And this is the logic responsible for showing course details by ID. And just because our current controller class is under namespace, we have to import db class. So let's add a use statement for the db class. And now we have to bind this method to the route. And we're doing so by using the following notation. So in here, we are declaring an array where the first element will be the fully qualified class name, and we can get this name by referencing class property. And the second element will be a method name that is going to handle the request to this route. And the same thing I'm going to do to the second route, which is showing particular resource by ID. Here I'm also going to use array notation. This will be exact same array, but the method name will be show instead of index. And now let's also visually group these two routes since they belong to one resource. And just because one of these routes accepts dynamic route segment, which is an identifier of the course, we also have to accept it in the parameter of this method. So let's add one parameter called ID. Then I'm also going to explicitly state return types of these methods, both of them return view. So let's import corresponding class that represents view. And after all these modifications in a browser, we're not going to see any changes. So let's make sure that we have not broken anything. Let's open up courses page. All the courses are listed in here. And then let's also check course details page. It works as well. And by the way, in PHP Storm, if we're going to put the cursor on top of this SQL query and open up menu with actions, here will be an option to configure data source. Let's choose this option. In here we can connect PHP Storm to our MySQL database. So let's configure new data source, select MySQL, and establish connection with our MySQL database. In my case, the host will be localhost, the port 3306, the username will be root, and database is called Laravel-watch. For convenience, let's also give more readable name to this connection and test it out by clicking on the following label, test connection, and the connection was successful. So let's save these changes. And after establishing the connection with the database, now we have the ability to check data in our database directly from within PHP Storm, and we can also see the structure of our tables So if you prefer using PHP Storm to view database data, you can keep using this approach. But I'm going to use separate graphical client Table Plus to work with database. And that's about it for this lesson.